How come you guys renew passport for so fast?
Frankly speaking, there are a lot of Malaysians who don't think very highly of Malay as a language.
Have you been to Indonesia?
I went to Medan,
Oh.
Danang Toba.
Yeah, Lake Toba.
I forgot where we landed, and then we took some I don't know, local transport to Lake Toba, and we rented a motorbike, and that's how we traveled around.
Nice.
So we stayed near the lake, and all we ate, I remember, for that 1 week, nothing but it was nothing but fish. Okay, Selly.
I see.
We had fish because that was where they caught the fish from. It was around that area. So we had all sorts of ways of eating fish. Grilled fish, fried fish, steamed fish, fish in soup, fish in God knows what, that kind of thing. It was really, really different. There was this crater. We went to this crater, volcano crater, somewhere in Indonesia. Where was it? I forgot the name already. Yes, we went to Bromo. That one was a story. That one was a joke. That one was a joke. You know why? What happened was we were supposed to fly from Penang. Fly from Penang, and this was on the Deepawali holiday, about 1 week there. Went to the airport with my husband, my 2 kids. Went to the counter. The lady looks at my passport. Ma'am, you can't go. You have less than 6 months on your passport. I was like, fudge.
So sad.
So my husband was like, hey, how lah? And we were meeting my father-in-law who was flying all the way from France down to Bromo. So my husband was like, okay, you know what, we go first. Then the lady was like, okay, why don't you guys go first? I go and renew my passport and come back the next day, okay? The next morning I woke up at 5:30. That time I was staying in Penang, Alpine Tower, Bukit Jumbo. I had to go all the way across to the mainland to get my passport and drive all the way back home, and then take a cab all the way to the airport, and then fly there, land there. I think my father-in-law was the one who picked me up, and that was my wonderful start to the entire vacation.
Wow, but you managed to go to Bromo, right?
Yeah, I managed to go to Bromo. I was telling the immigration, I was very surprised. I got my passport, Selly, in less than 2 hours.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that. How come you guys renew passport for so fast?
Normally, right, even people who live on the island would go to the mainland to get their passports done because it's so much faster. If you're on the mainland, the immigration office in town takes like half a day or more.
But that's also fast.
But you have to go very early.
Yeah, go very early.
But if you're going to the mainland, then a few hours will be done, like maybe 3 hours max.
Wow!
Just for your info, Sally, when I was a kid, you need 1 week to get a new passport.
Yeah, now so fast, 2 hours.
Yeah, now, and I was talking to the immigration officer. They are not happy. They are not happy that because they have a KPI. From the time you submit your application, people should get their passport within 3 hours. That's their piagam, their charter. So I was telling them, and they were saying they're not happy because there are a lot of checks they have to bypass and things like that just to fulfill that. But that's the standard now, if you can get your passport on the same day itself, if not in a couple of hours. But when I was growing up, I dropped my application off on Monday, I get my passport maybe the next week after, that kind of thing.
Yeah, here 2 hours cannot
Yeah, no way.
2 hours is no way. No way, really no way.
Yeah, because my kid's passport also, when we renew it was like 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks.
They have to do it in the embassy, right?
Yeah, they have to do it in the embassy.
Oh wait, means your kids, you guys take okay. Yeah, the mother is Malaysian, means
But now can already, right?
They won the court case, but it's a landmark, it's not a landmark judgment, meaning it has to go through appeal and all that. And Putrajaya recently appealed against the decision, so it's not finalized yet. But I'm not hoping for anything. To be honest, I'm so sick and tired of the whole thing. It's like, whatever, you don't want my kids to be Malaysian, it's okay. It's okay.
Anyway,
so those are the places that I've been. Before COVID hit, we were actually planning to go to Komodo.
You've been to Komodo Island?
No, we were planning to.
Oh, you were planning to, yeah.
Yeah, we were planning to, and then of course COVID had to happen, so no go lah.
Wow, means you must love Indonesia then, since you.
Well, my husband likes traveling, that's why.
And Indonesia is actually super pretty, you know.
It's not.
Yeah, I mean, my graduation trip was to go to Indonesia for 3 weeks.
Yeah, but then things happen. What was your first impression then? Since you went to Medan, right, at first?
It was very culturally different. I found it very, very interesting because I liked what I saw. Like basically, the food was nice. I'm never picky with food anyway.
Yeah.
So for me, the food was good. You know, and people were very, very friendly. And then Medan is predominantly Christian Bata. I think they had stuff that you don't normally see in many Christian countries. Bali was nice. Oh, that's my daughter lah, but this is Bali lah. So we were doing small hikings lah, and we see all the paddy fields. This is the market, and they all were in love with my daughter because I was baby wearing her, and the locals actually, you know, carry that pouch with the sarong. And you know, here you have this white dude and me walking around with a sarong. So you were like, oh, so cute, you know, that kind of thing.
Oh, you know, I can imagine.
This, you know, for example, you had this face, okay, staring at you all the time.
Oh my god.
Still the same lah.
Actually, this is the last question. I've seen a lot of comments regarding like most Chinese Malaysians not being able to speak Malay. And then like, I don't know, some people debate about it on the comment section. So as a Chinese Malaysian, you both, right? Do you have anything to say about this?
Daphne, I'll let you go first.
Actually, I've said before, like
kind
in a
of.
previous video, I think it's more like, it depends on where you are growing up in the country. So if you stay in the city, then not much, because everybody just uses English. But you stay in more rural areas, or even like certain states like Kelantan, then everybody speaks Bahasa perfectly, I would say. Yeah, and growing up in Penang, I go to a Chinese school, everyone around me is Chinese. So it's like, there's don't say no need, it's like we know, but we just don't speak it informally. It's more like you speak it in school with your Malay teacher. Yeah, so it's not really like a language we used to communicate in, so it's more like a professional proficiency language rather than a native language. So that's how I see it in my case.
How about you, Mabel?
I think Daphne mentioned a very good point because in the city most people speak Malay, and then most of the kids I know growing up, because anyway I'm from PJ. So when I was growing up, if you were not in the national school system, let's say you're a Chinese ed, or even if you're in the national school system, there is no real incentive or motivation to go out and speak Malay, other than to order food. You know, so I used to date somebody who barely spoke any Malay. And even when he ordered food, right, he would get the order wrong. So for example, teh o ais limau, he would say teh limau o ais. And then the guy would look at him and go like, you know, what? Hello, I don't understand what you're talking about. That kind of thing. Yeah, there's no motivation for you to learn Malay or even use it because we spent like 12 years studying the language. But I wouldn't discount the language completely from the picture because you guys know I went and worked with a government agency, and with the government agency, even though it was predominantly, you know, in English speaking environment, we still liaise with government, and when you're liaising with government, all the letters and the communications all need to be in Malay. So I was calling up people from the ministry, talking to them in Malay, and that was when I found that the Malay I was very familiar with, which is the Bahasa Melayu, it's not exactly suitable for formal purposes. And you'd be surprised, even Malays themselves, especially the ones who've been educated privately or gone to even national schools, went overseas, their Malay is not that strong. There is something lacking. I think we're very used, in the city, we're too used to English being the medium of communication and dialects. We don't use enough of it formally. So when you go out and work, let's say like Daphne, for example, eventually if you want to buy a house, right, everything will be in Malay if you're dealing with the government. You know, like you go to EPF, our version of KWSP, it's all in Malay. And income tax declaration, they now make it dual language, but previously it was all in Malay. It was a nightmare. Going back to your answer, is this just limited to Malaysian Chinese? I think we're not making enough of an effort to pick up the national language, because frankly speaking, there are a lot of Malaysians who don't think very highly of Malay as a language. Because they don't see it being used on the international circuit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they think, I know what, it's okay lah, I don't need to learn it, that kind of thing, or I don't need to be proficient. But I do go around and tell people, look, it's on your passport. Okay? So if it's on your passport, the least you could do is, number one, know how to introduce yourself. Okay? The most basic lah. Make sure that you know sufficient enough to get you going if you need to go to the police station, make a police report, things like that. Or even like handle government business, then fine. You don't need to have a PhD, like, Bahasa Melayu or anything like that. It's in discussion. I don't know, is it the same in Indonesia? Do you guys have the same problem?
No, not at all. So one of the things that surprised me the most was that you guys do everything like in several languages. So let's say instructions or even like letters or anything, you guys would sometimes have at least English and Malay both. Yeah. We don't use English at all, like in a government basis or like in everyday settings even. Like I would speak with my friends, my family, like everybody totally in Indonesian. If with my friends, like we mix a little bit here and there with like English, but then very, very basic, like the words that we normally use. But if you don't know any other language other than Indonesian, you just survive here. Everybody knows Indonesian. Yeah. But you mentioned about, like some people don't think highly of like, why should I learn Malay? Here on the other hand, I think it's the other way around. Why should we learn other languages? If you want to stay here like forever, let's say for good, I don't see the need why I need to learn other languages like English or like Mandarin, like any. Yeah, unless you want to go abroad, you want to study abroad, or you want to do a business with like a foreign country or something. Then some people here, majority, I don't think I feel they don't really see a need why they should learn other languages. But however, like my generation, probably no lah. They would know, it's very important, especially English nowadays. But most people, because Indonesia is huge, right? I think most people would be comfortable with just knowing Indonesian.
I mean, in terms of education also, in public schools in Indonesia, that's the only language you learn, right?
Yeah, even in private. My whole life, I went to private school. Yeah, from kindergarten to high school. Other languages that I learned was only English. It was compulsory, and like Mandarin, like a little bit super basic, but then they kind of remove it from the whole curriculum. And then they move it back, so I had Mandarin again, but then they remove it again. Anyway, long story short, like my whole life I only studied English, but it was only like a repetition of present tense, past tense, future tense, and things like that. Even in the class itself, we don't really communicate with English,
Oh, okay.
So like you mentioned, you guys don't enforce it. Here it's also the same. Just use bahasa for everything.
Yeah, I think here it's compounded by the fact that you have to learn Malay and English from day one, and then there's an addition of another third language. They call it your mother tongue. So it's either Tamil or Mandarin. And then at the government level, all the official stuff is in Malay, but the sort of semi-official is English. So that's like the backup. And then depending on who you work with, like which minister, your press releases will be translated into Mandarin, into Tamil. So it's a little bit like Singapore as well. But in Singapore's case, it's actually the reverse. You have English as the formal, and then Malay is also an official language. Yeah, that kind of thing.
So interesting. We don't have that problem here. We do have a lot of culture and languages, but let's say Javanese people, they have their own languages. Even Javanese, they have like Sundanese, Javanese. Even the Japanese itself has the soft version and like we call it ngapak. I don't really know what it is in English. So yeah, they have different version. I'm like, they use it on a daily basis, but within their own community, something like that. But they would know Indonesian whether or not they know their what is it called, like their dialects or like their community language in general, you know. Like my parents, they speak Hakka with each other, and then my dad's side, they speak Teochew with the big family. I can listen, but I don't really speak, you know. We just use Bahasa for everything. Yeah, it just somehow came to that, because of the history and everything. So we really cannot compare the countries, just different. Yeah.
It's very different the way it's done here.
Yeah, true. Okay, I guess that's it though. Thank you so much. Oh, anything else? Lastly, anything else you guys wanna say to the audience? Maybe subscribe to my channel.
Remember to subscribe,
Let me have my moment. Like and subscribe and hit the notification bell.
Oh guys, don't forget, okay? Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Mabel and Daphne, for being here and like sharing your thoughts and taking the time to be here. Thank you.
No problem.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed this session. Say bye.
Bye.
Okay, thank you. That's it.